Welcome to Looking Ahead to Beto Days. I am Chris, your host. I'd like to first introduce our debate team. Dan.
Hi.
And Hannah.
Hello.
I brought them both back on the show so that we could discuss the second debates. But before we do that, I'm going to bring you a little bit of a plug from the campaign. Beto's campaign is asking for anybody who can to host a watch party. And what I mean by that is Beto gave a speech on Thursday morning, where he addressed what had happened in El Paso, his new trajectory for his campaign. It was incredibly moving. It was probably one of the better speeches that he has given. And we're trying to bring that to a wider audience. So if you're able to either host a watch party at your house or some venue, or you're able to attend a watch party, the campaign is asking that you hold one of these events from they're looking for anywhere between August 19th and August 31st to hit as many people as possible. It'd be a huge help to the campaign, and it'll be definitely a huge help to Beto as we drive the march to the end of the primaries and the march to the presidency. We need as many people behind this movement as possible. But now we can get into the meat of the discussion, and that is the second debate. Now, it's been a little bit of time since the second debate. A lot of stuff has happened, and it is really, really hard to look at the second debate in the shadow of El Paso and Dayton. The trajectory of the entire campaign trail was not, it was healthcare. Healthcare seemed to be the big thing. And while they called out Donald Trump, they were very, very, I felt like the candidates were kind of soft in how they did it. And they were really, really, they kind of like picked their shots, and all of that has gone out the window. So with that being said, let's jump right into the second debate. So like, who do we feel won that debate? Who had the best showing? Just jump in here. Let's get this thing going. Dan, we'll go with you first. Who do you think won that debate?
I think the standpoint of where he was sitting at the time, I think it was Cory Booker. He seemed prepared, polished, poised. He attacked Biden. He did it in a pretty successful way. He came across as somebody who's been struggling in the polls. I'm not sure how much he shot up, but he showed that he is somebody who's capable of bringing the message, to the greater good, to the public. And he was the second night, correct?
He was indeed the second night. The second night was actually kind of interesting. The first night was kind of
like 3 weeks or more.
It's been a minute. El Paso happened, and then everything's been the focus on that. I mean, which again was our last episode. We had to change up the order of how we were doing the episodes as a result. Obviously, you got to do what you've got to do. It was the second night. The first night was a little bit more subdued. I'm glad you brought up Cory Booker, because when Cory Booker is giving his introductory speech, him and Biden. Right? There were protesters that were shouting at them. They were shouting "Fire Pantaleo," which wasn't at Cory Booker. It was actually at Bill de Blasio, the mayor of New York City, because of the cop who choked and killed Eric Garner. You saw a lot of that. There was somebody who had shouted out earlier on in the show. You saw a little bit more activity in the crowd, which I think kind of set the tone for the rest of the night. I felt you definitely saw them they were all more agitated as a result. Cory Booker tried to go through his intro, but he had to stop and then restart. So that kind of throws off your trajectory as a candidate.
And
Hannah,
I'm
who
not
do
trying
you?
to overly plug Corey. I mean, yes, we're from the same state, so go New Jersey. But it showed that his poise, he stopped. He said, "I'm not doing this bullshit."
Yeah.
They get this guy out of the crowd, and I'll go on. I think I forget who it was. Might have been Tapper. Was trying to get him to go on. He's like, no, no. So it shows you're looking for that kind of poise in a candidate.
Absolutely,
Not doing
absolutely,
the crap, and I'm moving on.
Absolutely. Hannah, who do you think had the best night?
Literally right now, sitting here and thinking about it, I want to say that the Republican Party won these debates.
Ooh, interesting. That's a bit of a hot take. Go ahead.
Because if you yeah, right. No, every candidate, every one of the quote unquote major contenders, Biden, Kamala Harris, Cory Booker, Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, Pete Buttigieg, all of these people made it a point to bring up, let's stop using these Republican talking points. But every candidate continued to hit on all of these things that Republicans are taking and twisting and making it about them and what Democrats are doing wrong. There's still so much infighting, and I think that's partially because we are still a year away. That I think that anything that is coming across now is just giving more fuel to that right fire.
I can absolutely I respect that point of view. That is definitely unique. That's interesting. I hadn't thought about that because you think about which candidate did the best, but that's a really good take because you see, and I've been saying it, especially with Medicare for All, and that being at the time like the big talking point. That's one of those things that people on the right really don't like. Or in terms of immigration, where they've brought up and hit on, are you for open borders? If you're for anything that looks like open borders, that's going to be a big problem in swing states, in swing voters, and those voters that you can get to go one direction or another. And those are big topics. So that's a really good point, because I noticed that too. They all said, they all kind of,
they said we have to stop using these Republican talking points, which is hard because they're Republican talking points for a reason, because they're issues that are so divergent of each other that it's hard to steer away from them without alienating that topic. If that makes sense.
Exactly. And the Republicans actually are really, really effective, at least with their base, in twisting the words of Democrats to fit their base. And they're giving them those sound bites. Everybody talks about sound bites, but they don't talk about who they're giving the sound bites to. So that's a really, really great point. So who do you think had a bad night? Like who were you expecting more from that you didn't really see it?
Let me take this one first, or
yeah, go ahead, Dan.
Well, definitely, I think I mentioned her last time was Kamala Harris. She kind of got slapped around by Tulsi Gabbard, and she came back after the at the spin room portion after the debate and said, "Well, I'm not going to be bullied by somebody who kowtows to Assad and the dictators." But where's that during the debate?
Exactly. People aren't watching. Like, most people don't watch that after the after show, like I do. But then again, I run a podcast that pertains to politics.
I mean, I kind of push back on that a little bit. Tulsi Gabbard kind of tried to twist around when she was talking about her. Oh man.
Her record?
No, not her prosecution record. That one she did kind of get on. Talking about her healthcare plan and how I believe it was her healthcare plan, and
I think you're right.
And whoever wrote or helped write the Obamacare plan, didn't write but co-signed on Kamala Harris's plan. And Tulsi Gabbard kind of said, I don't know if she misspoke or was misinformed, but Kamala Harris jumped right back at her and told her, no, she didn't write it. She approved it and said that it was good. So I don't think Kamala Harris is letting her completely run her over, but she did kind of get her with her prosecution record for sure.
Yeah, and that prosecution record is going to be a real problem down the road, I think. That seems to be one of those bugaboos. But I mean, in July of 2019, that stuff shouldn't necessarily. It should be policy now. Right now is what they should be selling us their policy.
You're right, but at the same time, most politicians have made mistakes.
Yeah.
It's part of the reason why Trump appealed to voters, because he has no record. I mean, I'm sorry, he has a record of 2.5 years of complete bullshit, but he was a businessman and not a very good one. Mm-hmm. People like Obama, the Bushes, they've all been politicians. Clinton, they've had to overcome their issues. People do it.
He hasn't made decisions that have altered policy,
because he's not a politician.
Exactly, and that's exactly what Dan's saying, and I agree with that. I get that.
So, as an overall entity, like, how do we feel about these? I can tell you one thing that bugged me, and whoever's moving.
Not me.
My thing moved. I didn't move.
Hannah, can you mute?
No.
Hello?
I got to sign back into the computer.
All right. So I'll edit that too.
Okay.
All right. So one of the big things that really bothered me with this debate was and I know we gave her a really, 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 really hard time last time, and dark mystic or dark cosmic forces, all of that shit's funny. But how I feel like they were very disrespectful to Marianne Williamson, to the point that, like, she even said, "But you better come back to me this time." Like, you shouldn't have to do that. And you see a lot of the focus being on the big guns. Like, yeah, you guys kind of, y'all made it to the debate stage. It's cute this time. But we're going to talk to the people who are actually going to matter. You see a lot of the media and the people doing this, writing off those other candidates and not focusing on them. There are people, they are there for a reason. Like, somebody donated to them. If I was donating to a candidate and my candidate made it on the stage and then nobody talked to them, I'm going to be upset about that.
Here's the issue I take with that, though. Marianne Williamson was saying some really good things, some really generic things.
Well, yeah, she pivots.
Yeah. But you're doing a disservice to, I mean, honestly, full disclosure, I think these debates in general right now are kind of a disservice because
I agree.
It's just
to preach.
Yeah, it's just kind of a shit show right now. But I think you're doing a disservice to the vast majority of the voting public if you don't focus on these people that are doing higher in the polls. Because you need to see that information. And a lot of what Marianne Williamson is saying is she's saying this and she's saying that and she's making these things sound wonderful, but she's not backing it up with any policy.
Well, she's not backing it up of much of anything. And don't get me wrong. My defense of her is definitely just based upon treatment, not on my belief in her policy.
But it's a debate, and everybody's done that. You have seen every single person get cut off. You have seen every single mediator say, please abide by the rules to everybody.
And that's true. That's true. But I'm talking about the amount of time that they're being provided, the amount of times that they're calling on it. And when it seems like they're calling on Elizabeth Warren 4 or 5 times, and then, we forgot about Tim Ryan.
I think it seems like they're calling on Elizabeth Warren 4 or 5 times because if you get called out in somebody else's, like, you're allowed to respond when you are named. And I think that everybody is naming Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. I think everybody is naming those people because they are the front runners. So I think that what looks like a skew in showing or letting these 4 candidates talk more, I think it's a product of because they are the front runners and everybody else around them has to compete with what they're saying, and they have to call them out to tell the public why their plan is better than Bernie's plan. Their plan is better than Joe Biden's plan. So they're getting called out, so they're getting more screen time because by the rules of the debate, they get to respond.
No, and that's a fair assessment. And you know, just like I said, and not to, you're right. There's too many people on stage. There's too many voices, and it's hard to get to everyone. I just would like them to find a little bit more of an equal way of doing it. Like I said, I'm not in any way, shape, or form. No, and you're right, and that's the problem. And if you're going to do it that way, don't put them on the stage. I mean, wait, what are they doing there? And you'll have people say
any debates. I think at this point there just needs to be town halls.
Exactly,
there's nothing to debate right now because we can't. Nobody knows what the hell anybody stands for because we're too busy trying to say what another candidate stands for is wrong. I don't exactly know what you stand for. Like, it took me until we were watching the debates tonight to understand what Beto meant about the keeping that provision in the law to not criminalize crossing the border illegally. Like, when I first heard that, I was trying to process it in my own brain and say, I mean, these people are coming for all of these reasons, and to, you know, throw a criminal charge on them, I just feel like that's adding insult to injury at this point. But in listening to him actually having a chance to explain it in that debate and not really picking up on it until I rewatched it tonight, having him explain, well, yeah, we're going to keep that provision in there because we're going to make the process for coming to this country not necessarily easier, but we're going to open that and give these people coming the proper ways to get through, which they're not getting right now. So if you're crossing the border illegally after we do all of this, then yeah, you're probably here for some nefarious, like, there's a reason you don't want people to know that you're here.
Exactly. And that's not open borders. That is the best way to do it.
But bringing it back to what we're talking about is he had that moment to actually explain that without somebody trying to interject, or without him having to defend anything else, or without him trying to disprove somebody else. That's what needs to be in front of us right now, not these debates. And exactly. That could have come out, and that would have come out in a town hall forum, or however you want to do it, just any kind of question and answer, or just get up and talk to me for 2 hours about each and every one of your policies. That's what we need right now. We don't need this constant back and forth, because nobody, like, I am probably the typical American. I'm not going to go and read people's policies, at least not right now, because 10-month-old job, school, all of these things that I've got going on, I'm not doing that. So I'm relying on these public forums like this to inform myself. So I feel like that's the route most Americans are taking right now, because
the vast majority of them, I would agree, yes.
So I think these debates in general are doing a disservice to everybody involved. The candidates, the viewers, the freaking moderators who just look frustrated the entire time.
Oh yeah, no, they do not look like they're having a good time at all. And that's a really good point. And as we get into the September and the October debates, it looks like the field is going to shrink a little bit. Mm-hmm. Right now, I believe only 6 candidates have qualified.
I think there might be 7, but it's no more than 7.
It's definitely not more than 7. I cannot for the life of me think of who the 7th one is, and don't get me started on Tom Steyer. No. Because I have many a feeling about that man, and I'm pretty sure anybody who donated to his impeached Trump PAC, all of that money went straight into his campaign. I mean, he's a billionaire anyways. So
did I write about him last time? But he should put his money towards the Senate and the House seats and in our future nominee.
I think so, because last time he was talking about it. Now he's officially doing it, and you know that's just not where that money is best served, especially in a deep race.
We have the Koch brothers, and who are the other assholes who fund the Republicans?
The Koch brothers is all I really hear about.
Who have pockets, they literally funnel money to the Republican, no matter how terrible the policies are.
Yeah, they don't care. I'm not one for PAC money, but if you want to donate your money and you want your money to go to this cause, don't kind of like wrap that around you in that speak, especially now at this late stage when the field is this deep. I totally feel you on that. And that's been the problem with this debate. And the two, as far as I'm concerned, the past two debates are completely irrelevant because the world changed on August 3rd. It really did. When that happened, you saw a shift in everybody. And I'm gonna plug Beto on this one for sure, because he is the one that absolutely has caused that shift. Because of how he's handled El Paso, you've seen a completely different Beto. I mean, we were watching his portion of the debate today, and he looked uncomfortable. You know, he was much better. He's much more direct. He was much more concise. He got all of his points in the allotted time. He didn't talk over, but he still seemed uncomfortable. And then El Paso happened, and it's like somebody new. And I feel like the entire field has kind of followed him. What was that?
That was me, sorry.
It's okay. I'll edit that out.
I flew out of my ear by accident.
It's all good. It's all good. We run an amateur podcast here. It's completely okay. Anyways, I might not even edit that out.
We strive for the best, but
yeah, I'm sorry. We don't have CNN money or all those other guys. Yeah, we're regular people.
Other than in a basement on a computer and crappy headphones.
I'm in my in-laws' house. So, you know, you've seen them kind of ride his coattails, because as soon as Beto came out and said Donald Trump is a racist, Donald Trump is a white supremacist, he's the problem, he is where I'm going, that is where I'm doing, I'm going to fight and die to beat that man no matter what it takes. You know, not running for this, just everybody else has kind of followed him on that. I mean, they were all in Iowa. He went from El Paso last Thursday to Mississippi to Arkansas. Like, dude went to a gun show. The day after saying that he wants to ban all assault rifles, he showed up at a gun show and was talking to the dealers. And I know this is off topic right now because we're talking about the debates, but that just shows you how pointless these debates are. They're not going to tell us anything. Well, nothing. It can change in a second. Go ahead, Dan.
See, kind of with Hannah's points, I think Beto is at his best when he's out in the quote unquote wild.
Yeah.
When he's you know, with the Kaepernick question from the Senate campaign with the kneeling, you know, he gave a very passionate, you know, coherent answer. When he off the cuff, you know, lambasted Trump for, you know, the media for the way they handled Trump. You know, when he goes to these shows, you know, who would think to go to a gun show when you're a Democrat from Texas? That's a pretty genius move, in my opinion. You know, he's at his best when he's on social media, when he's in the town, when he's one-on-one or, you know, meeting people. You know, unfortunately, he has his issues for whatever reason when he's in the debate setting. You know, but he needs that, you know, and as Hannah says, that, you know, some people, you know, at this point, why should he be debating? It should be out in the wild doing what you do best.
Exactly. And that kind of brings up an interesting point with the debates, right? Especially right now, like, we're going to learn more from the candidates, not on a debate stage, but with the work they're doing, and not necessarily through actual debates on a stage, but through social media. Like, everybody, like, the big push nowadays, it's not it's 1960. You know, we don't have, or 1959 when we have JFK and Richard Nixon up on stage, and they literally, the tide of that election swayed to Kennedy because he looked younger. You know, they put makeup on him. Nixon wouldn't have makeup on. That changed that election. Those debates changed the election.
I thought the makeup started melting off of his face.
He was sweating.
There was something. There was something wrong with it. He looked real not good.
Well,
real not good.
You're next to a Kennedy. Come on.
Yeah.
You're standing next to a young John Kennedy. Let's be serious. Like, but nowadays we have social media. Like, Beto said something about. Let me go ahead and pull this up. This came on again after El Paso. Like I said, everything's kind of changed. He tweeted out, if I'm president, excuse me, in Arkansas, I listened to gun owners and sellers and appreciated hearing their perspectives. But as the plan we released yesterday says, if I'm president, you wouldn't be able to buy weapons of war for $395. You wouldn't be able to buy them at all. And the NRA retweeted it because, of course they would. If I'm president, in quotes, Beto, have you taken a look at the polls? And Beto clapped right back at him. He said, yeah, I've seen them. 70% of Americans support an assault weapons ban, including most Republicans. That right there, it has way more sway on voters than a debate's going to have right now. So to Hannah's point, she's 1,000% right. But how much does that say about future debates? I mean, yes, they have to get up there and perform, but we have a connection to these candidates in a different way.
And that kind of takes me to here. It's like, we talk about needing a candidate that can beat Donald Trump. We talk about having a candidate that can hold their own against Donald Trump on a debate stage, because there will be a debate between the Republican nominee and the Democratic nominee, and whoever that Democratic nominee is needs to be able to hold their own against Donald Trump on a debate stage. And I'm not sure that many of them could at this point.
Yeah, woe be unto the person that has to be in the room with Beto and Donald Trump if that happens, because Beto is really fighting hard.
That's what I said earlier. Like, I'm excited to see Beto on the next debate, because he does seem more impassioned and more I don't want to say riled up, but
they're letting Beto be Beto.
Confident. Yeah, he seems more confident in himself and his ability now than I think he has in the past. And I'm just hoping that translates onto a debate stage and not just in the wild. Which is a great way to put it, Dan.
Yeah, it's a great way to put it. I can guarantee you Beto doesn't give a fuck about any of that right now. He just really doesn't. You can tell it.
I understand that, and that's great. And I hope he keeps this calm, cool, and collected, as you said it, and as I'm sure we'll get to shortly, the fuck Donald Trump world tour. Like, I'm all about it, but it has to also translate to this more structured thing, because that is how people are going to get their information. People are going to there is going to be a giant tract of people that only get their information from these televised debates.
And that's true. Not everybody is on social media. Not to take, social media is a giant. Social media helped lead to Donald Trump in the first place. I believe that, because he tweeted crazy shit. He's still tweeting crazy shit. and people are like, yeah.
I guarantee you a lot of those people only know about the crazy shit he's tweeting is because they're hearing it on the news.
That's true. And anybody who wins, be it Beto, be it Elizabeth Warren, Sanders, Andrew Yang, any of them, whoever wins this is not just going up against Donald Trump. We keep saying, they've got to beat Donald Trump. They've got to beat Donald Trump. That's not true. That's not true, because they don't just have to beat Trump. They have to beat the machine that is Donald Trump paired with the fucking NRA, the fucking Fox News, and the fucking GOP.
How many fucks was that?
A lot. Because it's true, because nobody thinks about that. Right? It's just, we got to beat Trump. We got to beat Trump. We got to beat Trump. But can't just.
I consider it all one entity at this point. So
that is very true. It's very much the Trump war machine.
Yeah.
But it's not just a singular human. He's going to say something, and Fox News is going to jump on it. When you have and we talked about this on the gun control episode, when you have people out there like Tucker Carlson telling people that white supremacy is a hoax, and just blatantly lying to people, and people buy into it because they've been sucked down this rabbit hole. So whoever is whoever is going to have to run against Donald Trump is going to be in it for the fight of their life. It's as simple as that. You can tell me that he is low in the polls in all the states, and if anybody who runs, they'll kick his ass all over the country. It's just, you can't hang your hat on that. You can't phone it in, because that's what we did in 2016, and you can see where we're at right now in 2019.
I think right now where we stand, if he keeps this up, I'm not saying he's going to win. He has a shot of calling out the bullshit. Jon Stewart used to call Fox News Bullshit Mountain. I'm sure he still does. However, he is today on his animal farm. But you got to fight through that BS. You got to, between him and Warren are the two best at doing that. Of calling out the bullshit, of fighting through and saying, this is not what's going on, this is what's correct, this is what's going on. Not letting them get away with the crap. The NRA is a different entity. The NRA is so full of shit that it's obnoxious to throw around.
Oh, it's definitely they're circling the drain, to quote Scrubs.
If you want to, I saw this special last night for a couple minutes about NRA. Apparently, all the money, the dues you pay, funded Wayne LaPierre's wardrobe in his house in Texas.
Oh yeah, no, like their spending is just egregious, and people are finding out about it, and there's so much infighting. So that thing as an entity is definitely on its way out, and they're definitely leading influence. And we touched on, like I said, this the last episode. But we really need to make the point that it's not just Donald Trump, because Donald Trump doesn't get anywhere if Fox News and the GOP and the NRA and things like that don't elevate him. If he didn't have those other three things, he'd just be a crazy guy yelling on the internet, "Oh, that Donald Trump, he's saying that crazy shit again." That's what it would be. Instead, it's, holy shit, he's going to get us all killed. Holy shit, 22 people just died in El Paso because some crazy person decided it'd be a good idea because Donald Trump said, when somebody says, what do you do about him? You shoot him, and you giggle and laugh, and you don't stop him, and only in the panhandle. That's how fucking people die.
He's a crazy uncle at the dinner table who says random shit, and you say, oh, he got to go to freaking home. But then he's president. He's fucking running the free world.
He's running the free world, and we should have put him in a home years ago. I'd say they've got the money, but I don't even believe that.
I don't know. I think that you're giving too much. I don't think you're giving enough credit to the power of of him personally in his mouth. Because
his mouth, he said?
Yeah, his mouth, of Donald Trump's mouth. I don't think that every single Donald Trump voter voted because he had the backing of the NRA. I don't think that every single Donald Trump voter voted for him because of what they saw on Fox News. I think that there are a large portion of Donald Trump voters that voted for him because he promised these things. He promised a better economy, and however true or untrue his business record is, he could spout it, and it was enough. His mouth was enough.
Yeah,
and his mouth is enough. His mouth was enough in other aspects too, of making racism okay. But
it's true.
I think I agree that he is backed by the NRA and Fox News and the GOP, and without them, he isn't where he is. But I don't think that you're giving him enough credit for him as a person, as a completely shitty person as he may be, but he said the right things and promised the right things.
Well, I mean, and that's true, but again, without these outlets, like Donald Trump says it, but Fox News amplifies it. Like you see, I think her name's Rhonda McDaniel. I really don't know her name. I just think of her as the just super nasty GOP chair, because she's just she's a horrible person. I mean, like, to be fair, like whether she believes this or not, she's been put in and she's got the job. Like has to have the shittiest job in the world, because Donald Trump says something crazy and then she has to back it.
Yeah.
She has to try to spin it. I mean, even as the party, whether they believe it or not, and you see the same thing in the congressmen in Congress, like the random Republicans, and you see them starting to fall off now. Will Hurd just left.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to tie themselves completely to a sinking ship. So, I mean, those things are important, and we're right. He is important, but we can't have a candidate go in and just think that they just have to beat Donald Trump, because it's not going to be that, especially when you have people, spinning what he says.
But how do you launch an attack on Fox News? How do you launch an attack on
You don't.
the Republican Party?
You can't.
You got to attack what he's lied about, that if we go into recession, hopefully it does not happen, because that would be terrible for a lot of Americans. But he made these promises. He cut taxes for the richest of Americans, and we're not seeing jack shit. And he's starting trade wars that are affecting the average Americans. And to show them, he made these boisterous. He said 10,000 or whatever, more, even more than that, lies. Do you want this for the next 4 years of our lives? You want something different? We're actually trying to help you. Democrats have a history of at least trying to help. You might get stopped by the Republicans in Congress, by the fucking Mitch McConnells of the world, but we're gonna have policies that hopefully try to help the middle Americans. But you also can't say you can't pull Trump and say, oh, you're better, your life sucks, blah, blah, blah. You got to show them how the life could be better. Try to find that message.
That's true. That is 100% true. And I think this brings it back to Hannah's point, actually, about the debates and while they're important, because when they're on the stage with Donald Trump, they need to call him out, call him on his lies, like line of questioning, ask him. Like, make him answer these questions, because once he's in front of everybody and he gets to the point, because he can't defend himself, he's not a smart man on his feet. All he's going to do is call names. And at some point in time, calling names, and people will catch up on the fact that it'll be like, yeah, man, he called Beto a loser, or beta, or whatever, or, all of these things. And, I shouldn't use the Southern accent, but that's what I know, because I'm related to it. So South. that's what I hear in my head, because it's not just Southerners. There are people all over this country. I mean, there are people all over the world. The guy in New Zealand.
So, I mean, to that point, do you think that it will be not necessarily easy, but do you think that it's do you think that where the Democratic candidates stand now, do you think that they would be able to hold their own on a debate stage with Donald Trump?
It really depends on the candidate. You can say bias all you want, but I see that if I wasn't a Beto fan, I would be paying attention.
I would be. At this point, I would be concerned about Beto just losing his shit on Donald Trump and everything getting. I mean, rightfully so. I mean, I would love to see it, but I would be worried that he would be too emotionally fired up about it. And I think that's
when he's at his best.
Yeah, but on a debate stage, you can't. What he did in that interview was good, but on a debate stage, you got to be able to be somewhat cool and calm.
Yeah, you have to be able to keep a conscious train of thought and not just,
want to lash out. No, I get that. I think he would. Truthfully. I think Kamala Harris is, if we're going into a line of questioning, I think that it would definitely be Harris, because she's going to trip him up.
Mm-hmm.
She's gonna trip him. She will make, he will be his own worst enemy. In that case.
Do you think that's the key to Democrat being successful in a debate with Donald Trump, is getting him to a point where he just doesn't know the answer?
Exactly. You have people, you have to get him on things that they did not prepare him for.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to go away from his talking points, take him somewhere else. It's going to be a line of questioning, and you're going to have to trip him up, because at some point he's not going to be able to explain.
Has he ever that policy point?
No, he's never been able to, but you haven't seen anybody take him to that point.
Well, I know it won't make a difference to his 38%, whatever base, but you think it'll affect, obviously, in 16, Clinton won the debates. Clearly she knew a better job, whether I liked her or not. Is there any difference if, say, Elizabeth Warren wins debates and clearly stressed him out because she's smarter than him and a good debater?
I mean, it's the Hillary Clinton 2016 campaign it's a little bit more difficult and hard. You can win those debates, and she rightfully won those debates leading up to the election night. Donald Trump was he was a long shot. But you know who people forgot to ask and forgot to pay attention to?
Wisconsin.
The people. Like, they didn't actually pay attention. Like, you talk about the rich, like, people were left out, and that's what happened. She didn't go to Wisconsin. Like you said, she didn't go to all of these places. You can't just write people off. And again, dragging it back to Beto, that's why it's so important when you have somebody who's willing to go anywhere and everywhere. And that's why one of the guys that was in there that was interviewed that they left out, and the reporter put it up on Twitter, he said, that guy's got balls. That takes big balls for that. Like, when I saw that come across, I was like, wow. Like, that's what we need. And all of the candidates are going to have to do that. They're going to have to talk to people that they wouldn't normally see themselves talking to. And they're going to have to be able to find common ground with those people. And honestly, and again, I know I'm a supporter. I know I'm a volunteer, and my podcast is named for him. I just don't see anybody doing that better than Beto. I really don't.
But you're not going to win the Trump-based voters. You want to get back the Romney Clinton, Trump, Romney Obama, Clinton Trump voters once you flip-flop votes in the last few years. Yeah. I don't think you're not going to flip your family, who probably loves and lives and dies with Trump. As I go into a southern accent here.
Yeah. Well, and that's true. You're not, and his base is a pretty large number, but you're
but anybody,
you're seeing people peel off.
You could put Trump, you could put a Bush, you could put Cruz, God forbid, or Rubio. They're going to win states that no Democrat's going to win.
And that's a great point that I love that Beto brought up in this last debate is, he's like, there's a new battleground state, y'all. It's Texas. And there's, 38 electoral votes going towards it. So I think...
you should fight Texas, but like the Alabama, those states, you're not going to... Those are tough.
Doug Jones won in Alabama.
Georgia's an interesting state.
Yeah, and you've got Doug Jones winning in Alabama. So trust me, I lived in Alabama. I lived in freaking as rural as you can get Alabama, and
they didn't vote for Doug Jones. Those people.
I would not be surprised if some of them, because.
Well, Roy Moore was the worst candidate you could ever possibly run in an election.
Yeah.
Ever. And George Wallace ran for president.
True story.
And that's why Georgia is interesting. I think Georgia can go blue, and here's how I think it happens. And like I said, I'm going to bring it right back to Beto. I know Stacey Abrams has said that, she's not running for president, but she's never said that she wouldn't, jump in to be a vice presidential candidate.
She said
I think she'd be.
She said she would. She said she was on NPR today. Yesterday.
I saw her recently in an interview.
Yeah, she said, I'm definitely not running for elected office, but is the vice presidency considered elected office? I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's it. Yeah.
Well, right now she's trying to get, the voter suppression and.
Yeah, she's trying to take care of that.
She said she's not running for Senate. She's not running for the House. She's not running for president, but she has a group of candidates that if they asked her to be their running mate, then she would absolutely say yes.
And I know her and Beto have been in a lot of contact. And just imagine if you have a Democrat who wins Texas and Georgia. Mm-hmm. It would change American politics. Yeah. As it stands, it would change American politics for generations. It's just astounding. It's completely possible. Yeah. It's 100% possible. You just have to have the right candidates and the right pairs, and you can't have divisive candidates. And that's how I see somebody like a Bernie Sanders or an Elizabeth Warren in this whole Medicare for all thing, because you're going to have people who don't want to give up their private insurance. Now, I know we're going to go away from that, and Beto has touched on it as well. He said, healthcare is still important. He said it today on Chuck Todd. He said, healthcare is still important. We still need to make sure these people are taken care of. I'm not forgetting that, but this is where we're pushing. Like he said, he went to Mississippi. He met with some of the people who were impacted by the ice raid down there. Then he went to Arkansas. He was in Oklahoma before we started recording.
States he will never win in a general. I guess primary you need those states.
I mean, yeah. See, I just those will be the most interesting ones. I think the Southern Belt minus Georgia, because I feel like if you throw Abrams on the tickets, it's in play. If you put Beto on the ticket, Texas is in play. But it's those other states. I mean, it'll never happen. But could you imagine if everybody went blue? It's completely improbable.
Yes.
But what would that say about what kind of indictment of the Republican Party would that be?
I think I don't know.
I think it's unfeasible. It's not going to happen.
Oh no! Oh no! I mean, if you have even 35 or 40 of the states go blue, it's still an indictment of the current state.
We need to be very cautious in the whole. What does that say about the Republican Party? After Donald Trump is out of office, the Republican Party is still going to exist. And there are still going to be members of Congress that are at their core Republican and not this new disgusting version of Republican that we see as being, or that has been made to be okay now.
Yeah, as a result of Donald Trump.
Yeah,
I don't think the average Republican is like that at all. No.
Yeah, so I just think I think it's really dangerous to say, well, what does that say about Republicans? What does that say about the Republican Party? Because it's still going to exist, and it's still going to, you're still going to need to coexist.
Well, you don't want to have one. You're not going to ever have one political party.
Oh no, absolutely not. That would be terrible for the country.
And I would hope that if there is a big blue, obviously Alabama and those states are not going to win, but you have all the states that Clinton lost, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, flipped back blue, Carolina, Georgia, Florida, they flipped Texas. I would hope that the Republicans stop kowtowing to a leader, not being afraid to call it the bullshit. Mm-hmm. They're too afraid of this guy, except for a very, very small handful. And if they get trounced, well, you know what? We kept their mouth shut, and we still lost. It's okay to have ideals that are different than mine, but it's not okay to allow a leader of the free world to espouse racist, homophobic, xenophobic views, allow white nationalists to do what they want to do, but call it other people for what they say.
And
that's my hope.
That brings us to a different point. Now, we've kind of focused on the debate. That's been the big crux of this conversation. And like we've said, there hasn't been that much we can say about it because it's July 2019. Well, it's August now, but when this happened, it was July 2019. But we're gonna segue what Dan's saying right into two words: Steve King. The GOP has not pulled punches when it has come to calling out Steve King. Granted, he did say there'd be no people if it weren't for rape and incest, which was not smart. But he's well known for being racist. He's been kicked off of committees in Congress.
Only recently.
Yes, only recently. He tried to clap back at Beto and talks about heartbeat bills and all this abortion stuff. But there's a picture that came out from one of his town halls that went on in Iowa, and there were two people there, and I'm not 100% sure if they were A, supporters, B, members of the press, or C, people just there because they wanted to hear the crazy shit Steve King might say. Like that's the position he's in. So why is the GOP going to condemn Steve King, but in the same vein completely ignore Donald Trump? Like, why do you think that is? Like, y'all can jump in. Why?
Because Steve King is not the president of the United States.
Yeah, that's what I thought I would have said. Was going to say.
Still, I mean, that doesn't make that okay.
It doesn't make it okay, but Steve King holds what power?
Well, plus Steve King's not a bully. Doesn't have the pulpit Trump has.
Yeah.
Donald Trump tonight tweeted about a Fox News host who was critical of him. Trump, Juan Williams, is that his name right?
I have no idea. I hadn't seen that yet. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't surprise me.
But if you're critical of Trump, it's like you literally get attacked on Twitter or on in the media.
Yeah,
and you praise them, you literally get Juan Williams. Yeah, you praise him, you're like the best person of all time. You get thank you notes from him.
Because Congress knows that.
That must be why Kim Jong-un keeps writing Donald Trump notes. By the way,
these people know. These people have no. He's very easy to read. If you praise him, you kiss his ass. You'll get whatever you want from him. They'll give you the freaking nuts farm.
Yeah, Congress knows that their position can live and die within the fingers of Donald Trump.
And that's unfortunate. Like,
yeah.
I mean, you'd think that if they all got together and were like, man, we're really sick of this guy. Like, he is making us look really, really bad. I'm not racist. I just have my views. But this dude's out there, like, I mean,
if Trump was impeached tomorrow and went to the Senate, he wouldn't be convicted or thrown out of office. He wouldn't be.
No, it wouldn't. Mitch McConnell would see to that.
But wouldn't Mike Pence be a
good old Moscow Mitch?
Yeah, thanks for that one. Wouldn't Pence be a better candidate in next year than Trump? Less controversial, at least. Maybe I'm wrong.
I mean, no, that's a good take because Pence has been really quiet. You don't hear much from him. Like, the biggest thing that anybody's heard about Mike Pence in a while was his flight turning around and coming home. Like, he stays under the radar. So even if Donald Trump gets impeached and ejected from office, which looks less and less likely as each day goes by, I mean, Pence might be a better candidate than him. Yes, running, but I think that his reputation is done. I mean, Pence has other scars on him. It's not okay to think that conversion therapy, 1, works, or 2 is okay. So, I mean, Pence has some bad shit in there too, and he's done some dumb stuff. Like, I mean, going to the football game knowing players are going to kneel and then leaving and then making a big deal about it. Mike Pence didn't do that because he wanted to. Mike Pence did that because Donald Trump told him to. And that's the difference. And right there is the difference between Steve King and Donald Trump. Just the whole there would be nobody left if it wasn't for rape and incest thing blew my mind. Maybe if you were a Habsburg in like 1500, that would be kind of there. Like, maybe not the rape part, but definitely the incest part.
Yeah, but
we saw how well that worked out.
Tongue and die, so.
Yeah, well, there's not a king in Spain.
I want to point out one thing about Steve King. He was the election chairman for Ted Cruz in 2016. So way to go, Mr. Cruz.
Yeah, Cruz.
The openly racist, misogynistic douchebag. You allowed to run your campaign or whatever he did.
I mean, he also let Donald Trump say his dad killed JFK, but it is what it is. That's just the election. And and I have been hating myself for saying it, and I was super shocked with some of the stuff I've seen. But bearded Ted Cruz is not the same as old Ted Cruz. Like, he got,
helps his face less repulsive, I guess.
Well, yeah, but he looks less like Grandpa Munster. But
Eddie Munster.
Grandpa Munster.
He looks like Eddie.
He looks like Grandpa Munster. You're wrong.
We disagree on that one.
We're gonna sure, sure, Daniel, sure.
Go to hell.
So, I mean, like, that's another again, you can attribute that to Beto changing politics. Like, he at least in Texas, because of the way he ran things. And if we can do that in the rest of the country, he held the Republicans accountable. Like, Ted Cruz had to win that election with a little help from the machines, but Ted Cruz had to win that election. And it's like, you've seen it in some of the things he's done, because AOC tweeted something and he retweeted and was like, sounds good to me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like that was mind blowing. The fact that, like, I'm sure Donald Trump went through a roof. You're talking to them, blah 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 blah. Yeah, it's a big change. Way different than anything we've seen from him before. And since we're bringing up AOC and the squad, two of its members were on the unfortunate end of Donald Trump's most recent racist tirade, when Trump called Netanyahu and told them not to let them into Israel. That's Representative Ilhan Omar and Representative Rashida Tlaib. Rashida Tlaib has family there. You know, if you have people who are kind of against what you're doing and they want to come see it for themselves so that they can, like, actually have they want to find their opinion based off of actually seeing what the hell is going on, and then you bar them from coming in, they might have been right about you in the first place. That's all I'm going to say at that. Like, I mean, I don't know how Israeli politics work. I've never been there. I'm going to go ahead and, defer to Daniel. Daniel has been to Israel.
9 years ago, I was there.
Yeah.
Listen, Israel is a democratic nation. It's a sovereign nation. Israel does rely on the U.S. for a lot of aid. The Iron Dome was funded by President Obama. Which Iron Dome, if you don't know, is basically shoots down missiles, rockets that are launched by Hamas from Gaza or the West Bank. And Tlaib's grandmother lives in the West Bank, which is a settlement in Israel, and that's been a big bone of contention for the last several years. If you recall, in 2010 or 2009, Biden went to Israel with the intention of stopping the settlements. Like that day, Vice President Biden, and that day, Netanyahu announced more settlements. That's basically the issue is with Israel and the settlements. That's why there's been, for the last how many years, there's been issues with them. But and of course we got to go back to, I guess, was it last end of July when Trump told them to go back to their countries, their whatever.
Oh, the send them back. Yeah, it's been a couple weeks. It was before.
Three of them are Americans.
Yeah, AOC is from the Bronx.
Tlaib is from
Detroit, and the only one who
is a citizen.
She's a U.S. citizen, and she's not from. She's the only one that, like, I guess that applied to. She's still she was a refugee. Like,
listen, I have issues with Omar and Tlaib, and they're pro BDS, which basically is the stance to boycott Israel over the settlements. That's a tricky subject that I don't think we want to get into right now. Israel, again, is a sovereign nation, and it needs to be held accountable. I don't agree as a Jewish person and with family. My wife has family in Israel, with boycotting a country. In that sense, it does appear to be anti-Semitic to some people. But Israel also should not be banning American citizens from coming to the country just because they disagree with you.
Oh, and at the behest of the president of the United States of America, absolutely not.
I think that Bibi Netanyahu, the prime minister, I think he was going to let them in. And then when President Trump opened his big, fat, disgusting mouth, he gave in to him. And in fact,
if Israel wants to be the 51st state, and
that's a problem.
Greenland isn't taking it.
But even Bernie Sanders, he has family in Israel. He lived in Israel. He's Jewish. I don't know how Jewish he is in practice per se, but he even said Israel can't. We should, if Israel wants to prohibit our citizens from entering, maybe we should cut off their aid. Talk about their aid. It's a problem.
Yeah, especially when we help fund them. You shouldn't be, especially to be sitting congresswomen. That shouldn't happen.
Yeah, listen, again, Tlaib and Omar, you can talk, you can be critical, you can not agree with their beliefs. But like you said at the start, excellent point, if they're against something of you, bring them in. Yes, the Palestinians do things to the Israelis that are, they attack, they suicide bomb, they send rockets, they stab. There's big issues there. but you should show them what Israel's doing, the progress is made, the science that we've pushed, that they pushed. I'm not really Israeli. To show them what Israel stands for.
And that's a good a real good point. And we were talking about this whole send them back. I actually have a nominee that I'd like to personally send back, and that would be Ken Cuccinelli. Can we send him back to New Jersey? Would you guys willingly take him?
Don't bring him back here.
Oh no.
No. Wait, I thought he's from Jersey or Staten Island.
I believe he's from Edison.
That's too close to me. No.
And then
If you said, like,
somehow
Cherry
he
Hill
made it.
or like one of the bumblefucks of the South Jersey, I should fine.
I'm pretty sure I read Edison myself.
No, I think
Thanks for sending him here.
Yeah, I think now it's ringing a bell. I'm sorry. I do apologize for that.
Yeah, and thank you.
Listen, I had
as a
family.
duly elected representative of the city, state. It's a little bit of Ghostbusters humor in there for you.
Listen,
Yeah, we accept your apology.
I had family who came in in Ellis Island, at least several great grandparents, and it's just mind-numbingly frustrating what this administration stands toward immigration, especially Stephen fucking Miller, who, like me, has Jewish as Russian ancestors, who only came here because they're accepted as refugees. My great grandparents, my grandmother's family was persecuted, might have been raped by the Russians, and they came here because to get away from that, to stop these people from coming into changing it to stand on your feet. You think my family had money coming from Russia? Probably not. Most of these people didn't. It's just frustrating that that's where we're becoming, and people are allowing it.
Neither did mine. My great grandfather was Russian. At least we think he was either Russian or Yugoslavian. We think he was Russian and he came through Yugoslavia, but we know for a fact that he came through Ellis Island. And one of the most beautiful things that comes out of that is his sister writes this letter. She wrote this letter back home talking about the Statue of Liberty and seeing it as she was coming in. And that's what that represents. And that is what somebody like Ken Cuccinelli is trying to take away. It's barbaric, it's monstrous, to bastard. It's not, it's completely un-American. And this is the way I put it. If Trump found his Goebbels in Stephen Miller, he found his Himmler in Ken Cuccinelli. Ken Cuccinelli was in this super anti-immigration. This has come out in the last couple of weeks since he decided to open his mouth, which is always unfortunate. I can't believe CNN paid that guy for as long as they did, by the way. You paid him, CNN. You paid him.
That's not my fault. I don't work with CNN.
Yeah, no, I know. But he came here, Daniel.
I'm sorry.
You're responsible.
Listen, we took you in. We molded you.
That's true. And you sent me back just fine. Thank you. But
I don't think
that's
Jersey
a big problem. And you can see
equation.
where a lot of this... I don't think they did either. Hey, they got a better deal. If they traded Ken Cuccinelli for me, I mean... I think they made out pretty well, but like that's one of those, you're really seeing the racism ramping up. And I know we started this talking about the debates, and we've really run the gamut of a lot of different things that are going on and that are important to the world, but that all comes in the shadow of El Paso and Dayton, and that completely threw out the window. The first two debates, you're going to see a completely different debate stage on, the second and third debates. Now, I know both of you guys aren't necessarily Beto supporters. You like him. My wife has, by the way, Hannah has at one point in time said that she would. Did you not tell me that he is? He's definitely moved the needle for you as your number one.
Yeah, I think so.
Are we clear on that? All right. Well, to both of you guys, just real fast. Dan just sent me a text message that said, "I'll be right back." Don't question me, because I was about to wrap this up. So we're gonna sit here for a second and wait for him to come back. It's literally wrapping it up and asking you a question. I can hear you banging. I know it's
Dylan had
not.
to poop again.
Maybe. I'm going to have to do a lot of editing with this one.
You would pause this?
Oh, we have to pause it for you.
It went so fucking long that I had to go burn out my charger. All right. Reset.
Okay, so...
No, we can go longer. I'm fine.
No, you're good. I was literally wrapping it up. Like I didn't know you had left until then. I was actually going to wrap it up right now.
Did we finish everything you want to talk about?
Yeah. We hit all of them.
Anything else? Okay.
But the last thing I wanted to bring to you guys before we wrap up is, and like I just... So before we wrap it up, I know you guys aren't exactly Beto's supporters, although I have brought Hannah around to the Beto side, and right now her number one. I'm gonna let Beto take credit for that one.
Keep your fighting. Keep your fighting in-house.
Don't take credit for
if you hear any
things you did not do on your own.
Oh, well, it was worth a shot. Well, I can tell you now that she's said unto me that Beto is her number one, but not necessarily for Dan. I want to know from your perspective, seeing what Beto has done since August 3rd to now, what do you think? What do you think about the change you've seen in him, Dan?
I think I mentioned before, I was pretty impressed with his recent showings. Like I said, he's better in his element, in the wild, when he's responding, when he's talking to people, when he's dealing with the issues, when he's getting his message across without having to fight 9 other people on stage. And I don't know how to totally explain. I was a pretty big Beto fan when he was running for Senate. I still am a big Beto fan, but there's so many. It's hard to make a decision for me right now. There's so many great candidates out there. Not so many, but 5 or 6 people I think could take on Trump and could win. I do like Warren. I liked Harris, and Booker. Being one of my peoples. I gotta represent that. But it's difficult because he is a very strong candidate, and I think he would do a great job in the general. But I don't know if there's one thing that could change me right now or decide me, but like he has shown his renewed confidence. The fact that he's not afraid to take somebody on, to call out the bullshit.
Well, you can definitely tell that they're letting Beto be Beto because he's brought cursing back. Mm-hmm. We've heard multiple fuck bombs from him. He said shit. Yeah. In the speech that he gave on Thursday morning, last Thursday morning, or this Thursday morning, whenever he gave that speech, which was Thursday, was on a Thursday, by the way. He said shittiest. So like he's definitely in his own element. He's definitely they're letting Beto be Beto, and it is working. That's how I feel about that. So Hannah, like what do you have to say about like what you've seen from him as of recently since El Paso? Because it's definitely a change. That is definitely a turning point. As unfortunate as it is, it definitely was.
Yeah,
like
he's just fired up. He's. I feel like he has. I feel like he feels like he has a purpose now, like a defined purpose. Like he is the crusader for, like, he took what happened in El Paso personally, and rightfully so. I mean, that's where he grew up. That's where he's raising his kids. Like, he and his kids could have been in that Walmart, like he's taking it personally, and he's taking it feels more personal now. He feels more relatable now because things feel more personal. Like I've always felt like he was very relatable, but I think he's more comfortable in it now because he is feeling very attached to what he's saying now. Not that he ever felt detached, but I think it's more prominent now that he is here and he is fired up and he is going for it. Yeah.
He is laser focused. he has been on every show that he can put his face on, and it is going at Donald Trump. It is going at the issues.
And I appreciate
he is laser focused,
keeping it real. You know, like I can hardly get through a sentence without dropping a cuss word. Like, and I mean, and I know that's a really trivial thing, but I mean, it's different politics than we see normally. And it's not even, it doesn't even feel like
it means
politics
more to
anymore.
us too.
It feels like there's this guy that was affected by this thing that happened in his hometown, and he's probably, you know, like questioning his own mortality in it, like, holy shit, I could have been at that Walmart. And he is taking it upon himself to do something about it. And it's commendable. And all of the, like, cheesy things that I used to do, and I don't want to call them cheesy, but, like, the very political or campaigny things that I used to do, like, or used to talk about doing, like, I kind of value those a little bit more now because I see his, like, real, genuine, yeah.
You know it's real. It feels real. It looks real.
Yeah.
It's definitely something that we haven't
kind of
seen
like,
in.
You know, I should know
yet.
how many fucking counties there are in Texas by now. 54.
54.
254.
Yeah.
Like, whatever.
He says, you know, we went to every one of the 254 counties, no matter how red, how blue, how urban, how rural, whatever. And it's just kind of like, why is that not the norm? Why is that not the standard in politics? You know, you talk all the time about, or all these politicians talk all the time about, you know, reaching people that feel disenfranchised and all of this. So fucking go and talk to them. You know? I don't know.
And that's what Beto O'Rourke does. Like I said, he went to a gun show, and that actually brings up a good point. And we're gonna end on this point because, you know, we're millennials and Gen Xers, and we don't have a problem with foul language. Like, I curse like a sailor. My wife curses like a sailor. My son is worse than both of us.
I gotta say that. Look at that fucking food assholes.
Yeah, no, he's a good boy. He's a nice, sweet boy. Twitter loves him. But like, we appreciate that. Like, it feels more real to us. Like if somebody like a Joe Biden threw it out there, like I would feel disingenuous at this point. But I don't know. It feels real, and that's like he feels like one of us. It's like one of us finally said, you know, I'm not going to take it anymore. And we're not going to take it anymore, and I'm going to do something about it. Are you coming with me? And all of us said, yes, we're going with you. Fuck yes, let's do this.
He's the Moses of this election.
Now
I'm on board.
Yeah.
That better part, I'm on board.
And that's how he got the Jewish vote.
Can I make one more quick point before we wrap it up?
Yep. Go ahead.
What Hannah said. I think one thing we learned from 2016 is you should really strive to be yourself. Not to use canned lines, not to listen to consultants. Be who you want to be. You know, the best thing to do is show people who you are, how genuine and real you are. If you're fake, we're going to know what you're fake. And that was part of Hillary Clinton's problem. That's why people like Beto, and I know I like to plug Warren a lot. She has, to me, some of that genuineness of she really wants to be president. I'm not saying she's a right fit, better or worse than Beto, but they're the two candidates right now who I think are the most real, are, you know, don't have so much bullshit going on, and they tell you like it is.
I can agree with that.
I know
to
you're
a
the
point with
Warren fan.
And here's my one thing with Warren that I hadn't thought about, and since we're doing the debate episode and, you know, we're pulling in everything from everywhere because it all kind of ties back to that, she talks about being a teacher. Like, when was she in an actual classroom? Because I know she was a Harvard professor, and I'm not going to knock her for that because hell yeah, I would love to be a college professor, but being a college professor at Harvard is not the same thing as being a middle school teacher in Newport News. In any school system, it's just different. So I noticed that I don't see her making those connections too much. I do see her saying,
I think it was genuine when she went to that teacher conference in wherever it was. Do you know what I'm talking about? Yeah, no, like she.
Yeah.
I swear
that was
she knew the woman that was not. Yeah, I think.
NEA, bro. I
think
watched that whole thing.
I think she knew the person who was moderating them. Like that was like a genuine connection with the person on that stage. But I say this. I mean, teacher, like no matter like you also said to me like when was the last time she was in a classroom? Like do you think that should you retire in 20 years that you automatically turn off your teacher?
Oh, no. I don't think you automatically turn off your teacher. I'm just saying that being a teacher in a classroom in 2019 is not the same as being a teacher in a classroom in even the 1990s. Like even as a student, remembering that it's a different environment, different kids, different culture, different technology. You know. No, and you're exactly right. And trust me, I'm not knocking Warren. That was a genuine question that I didn't know the answer to, that I thought Dan may know the answer to.
I don't honestly, but I just did some quick as you're talking. She was going to be a teacher, and then she quit, or she started to marry somebody in the late 60s. But yeah, she definitely was a Harvard law professor.
Well, did she ever spend any time in an actual classroom?
Like you mean like a public school, like K to 12?
Like a public school?
I don't see that.
And that would be a problem for me as a teacher. Like, don't tell me that, I know what it's like to be in a classroom every day, because being in a Harvard classroom is not the same as being in a middle school classroom or a high school classroom. That to me is problematic.
That's a personal issue that you have to overcome.
Well, again,
in my opinion.
Yes.
And you're not, well, you actually get an opinion that matters when it comes to me. Fortunately. No, as a teacher and coming from that perspective, I see that as a little bit disingenuous, but that's just me personally. It's not going to be other people, but we can go ahead and wrap it up on that, guys. Thank you. We'll be back at this. I'm going to put the debate team together again. The next debate is in September. And we're going to try to get it out a little bit faster. I think we're going to have a little bit more to talk about. And if what, Hannah's, like she said, she's excited to see him on the stage. I am too. We'll see how this goes with this new, improved Beto O'Rourke. I guess as Dan called him, the Moses of the Moses of America. Hey, let's see where this thing goes, man. Thank you guys for coming on. Thank you for being here. And guys, for all my listeners out there, let's make sure we are getting out, volunteering, donating. Every cent counts. And don't forget, remember the watch parties. If you guys can attend or host a watch party for Beto's speech on Thursday, there are links to it online. There's links to it on his YouTube. Go invite your friends. If that's the first thing they see from him, it's a great thing for them to see. It was an amazing speech. But for now, I'm Chris, your host. Let's keep on looking ahead to better days.